Haha, here we are again, baby. Hell yeah. Hell to the yes. So yesterday, we made a video talking about the Vancouver Canucks and the Nashville Predators. How some fans on the Nashville side were getting a little bit antsy that one Kevin Lankinen has been so good with the Vancouver Canucks this season. It was funny. And I thought it'd be a great idea for Canucks fans to just kind of get the dub for the first time in a while, just kind of see that, hey, there's a guy that they have that some other teams' fans regret losing. But when it comes to the Canucks and the Preds, these two teams have gone through very different off seasons, and they have, so far, very different results. Vancouver, I think, for the most part, has kind of been where a lot of fans maybe expected. They're one of the top three teams at the Pacific. They're doing all right on paper in terms of the wins and the losses. I guess some Canucks fans are a little bit antsy because the team, even though their results are all right, they haven't been playing as well as we think they could, which kind of gets me a little bit excited as to what this team is going to be able to fully accomplish once they get going. But at the time of recording this audio, it is a little bit early, by the way. I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. But the Canucks, at the time of recording this audio, are third in the Pacific, and they're second if you sort by points percentage. So they're doing pretty all right. They're probably going to make the playoffs. Nashville, on the other hand, has been terrible. They've got 9 points in 14 games at the time of recording this audio. They are last in the Central, last in the West, and they are last in the league. My goodness, I didn't even realize they were that bad. The Preds have been the worst team in the National Hockey League despite big off-season additions like Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. The team is struggling, which means changes could be on the horizon. We did see some word from Preds GM Barry Trotz as to whether or not the team could actually go through some sort of a rebuild. No conclusions, of course, but essentially there is the possibility that the team performs so poorly and they're not able to get back on their horse that maybe a rebuild is needed to buy some time and build for better results long term. This, of course, is kind of surprising to hear after a team shells out the amount of money and years that it did to guys like Marchessault and Stamkos, who aren't necessarily young. Steven Stamkos, of course, he's 34 years old, signed on for a pretty long and beefy deal of $8 million a season at 4 years, so till 2028. Maybe it's not the longest deal in the world, but it takes him till he's 38 years old, so yeah, pretty long. Anyways, with this in mind, I wanted to turn your attention to an article published on responsiblegambling.org. This was published by Jim Behringer. Change is a real possibility, an inside source says on the next move for the Nashville Predators. Now, I'm pretty sure most of y'all are familiar with RG.org by now. They hired a bunch of NHL writers and beat reporters to give them stories over the past few weeks, and a lot of these things have included some pretty interesting interviews and insider scoops, and this article is no different. It'll be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and see this yourself, but the Preds are making waves this season for all the wrong reasons. After winning the offseason with the signings of Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea, the Preds find themselves near the bottom of the league. Bottom of the league, it should say. Preds GM Barry Trotz has made it clear that if things do not turn around, he is ready to start the rebuild. If we don't get going, then I'm going to start our rebuild plan a little bit. Trotz said on ESPN 102.5 The Game, "What we did in the summer was, as I said, fantasy hockey until we become a good team. If we do not become a good team, then we're going to see a lot more of our kids starting their process." Now, I don't necessarily know what that means to guys like Stamkos and Marchessault and all of them. I would assume they're going to stick around, but yeah, it's kind of like the Preds have no choice but to have them still. The next part of the article, though, gives a bit more context as to what this may actually mean. A source close to RG says those words are a little premature. "I think it's more of a threat to get the players' attention and get their acts together on the ice," the source said. "Every player knows change is a real possibility and they could be traded, but this was a wake-up call for the players to start performing better." The article then talks about how the Predators are looking for a center and yada yada yada. It's tough to find that, especially in this economy. A lot of teams are looking for centers. And the article also says that some of the other guys that the Predators do have are going to be difficult to trade because all the guys they signed in the offseason have no trade protection. The Preds kept their star goaltender for another 8 years. They do not have that many UFAs except for Nyquist and Fabro. Fabro's name continues to appear in trade rumors as a potential player the Predators could move on from. His name continues to be brought up in trade circles, the source told RG. The kid would blossom with a fresh start and a change of scenery. While no panic has set in, with a record of 4-9-1, these next few weeks will be crucial for the Preds. If things don't turn around to the GM's liking, players might not be the only ones on the move. The team has a long road trip, 2 weeks away from Nashville, starting next week through Western Canada. That road trip will be the tipping point, the source said. If the team underperforms on the road trip, the coach will be on the hot seat watch. Now, okay, we can talk about the Predators potentially firing their coach and getting some big changes underway, but this is where Canucks fans circling around the bait decide to take a bite, because man oh man have we been seeing a lot of Canucks fans bringing up this idea on social media. Hey, the Preds are bad. The Preds might rebuild. Does this mean that the Vancouver Canucks could make a trade for Dante Fabro? This is not the first time we had discussed the idea of Fabro getting sent over to Vancouver. After all, he did play with the BCHL's Penticton Vs. He was from Coquitlam, so he is a local guy, and he's not getting any significant playing time with the Preds this season. 26 years old, 6 feet, 190, right-handed guy drafted in the 17th overall spot in 2016, making $2.5 million a year at a contract that expires at the end of the year. He's got 0 points in 6 games at the time of recording this audio, with a career-high season of 24 points in 66 games in 21-22. After being a stud for the BU Terriers in the NCAA, a lot of people, myself included, thought that Fabro would essentially add on to what was a stacked D-core in Nashville, which at the time consisted of guys like PK Subban, Matthias Ekholm, Roman Josi, and Ryan Ellis. Fabro would be contending for that spot. Or at least we thought he would be. It's been a few years and he hasn't necessarily shown the ability nor the consistency to find himself in that position, but I don't want to make it seem like he's any worse than what the Vancouver Canucks already have. Fabro, I think a lot of people would generally say, is better than Vinny Desharnais, and probably a little bit more reliable than Tyler Myers. In fact, there's a little bit of angst I'm seeing amongst the Nashville beat about this entire situation. Here's an article published by Chad Minton, who does stuff for Predlines Nashville. He wrote this: Dante Fabro has played in just 6 of the 14 Predators games, while averaging a career low in ice time dating back to his first NHL season. It's time to trade him or play him over Luke Schenn. And the article here talks about how Fabro has become an inevitable waste of space. Okay, a waste of a roster spot, for the Nashville Predators. To be fair, I think Fabro is way better than a 7th D. If he could find the right landing spot, he can be as good as a quality second pairing D-man for someone. And he's on the last year of his current deal, so some team out there could see him as a low-risk, high-reward addition. Even the Preds fans are going out there and talking about how this is a fairly good player, and how his treatment, the way he has been deployed with this squad, is just unfair. So I'm saying right here, if the Vancouver Canucks can capitalize on this, bring back a Coquitlam kid over to Vancouver, bring him back to British Columbia where he played his junior hockey with the BCHL, and actually give him a spot in this top 4? Imagine what Bronstrom and Fabro can do together. Like, you almost have yourselves a Hughes and Hronik light pairing if you tried to make that work. Sure, you would be sacrificing size, Soucy, Myers, Desharnais, Forbort. Of course, Dante Fabro is not those guys' size, but he still is good enough where I think his ability should carry him further. We're already seeing it with Erik Bronstrom, that smaller guys, as long as they can move, they can make good decisions with the puck, and they can break the puck out of their own zone, they're given props, and they're given respect and ice time in the lineup. So I am secretly thinking about the Nashville Predators continuing to suck. And if a guy like Dante Fabro becomes available, I'm kind of saying it here, Patrik Allvin, you've got a big opportunity at your hands. This is not the same trade idea like Bowen Byram from the Buffalo Sabres. This is a different, cheaper, right-handed option. So, very different from the Bowen Byrams of the world, but I do still think there's value in talking about this. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Vancouver Canucks fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of Vancouver trading for Nashville Predators D-man Dante Fabro? If you're a Preds fan, what would you want in exchange to make this trade go through? Let me know in the comments section below. Which pick, which prospect, take your choice. Articles will be linked in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.